Hey guys, welcome back to another video. I'm starting the intro of this video inside the car because it is freezing outside and it's extremely windy, so I didn't want to take the chance. Grilles is currently with Berry BMW in Heathrow getting its run-in service done, and Tony very kindly organised me to have his brand new daily, which is this gorgeous M340D X-Drive Touring LCI, very similar to Jamie's M340D Touring that I had on the channel recently when I compared the M340i against the M340D. If you haven't seen that video, there's a link up here. It seemed to be very popular, so thanks a lot for everyone that did watch it. It's fast approaching 160,000 views. First thing to talk about is the spec of Tony's new car. Brooklyn grey on the outside, cognac leather on the inside. I think that is just such a nice combination. And once again, it's the same as Jamie's car that we had on the channel, which is one of Tony's customers. So I'm not sure who copied who, but what Tony has done with this car is combine the two, in my opinion, must-have options that are unfortunately part of packages these days, not as simple as just ticking the individual options, which are these M Sport seats. They sit a little bit lower than the standard sport seats. They also support you a lot better and are extremely comfortable and adjustable, and I think they look fantastic. These are the same seats that come in a standard regular M3 or M4 and the incoming G87 M2. So he spec'd them, which is great, and he's also spec'd the must-have pan roof, which, as many of you know, I absolutely love. If it was available on the M3 Touring, would I have ticked that box? Probably not, because it's a full fat M car and I think it's already heavy enough. But on the M Lights, I really dig the pan roof. I think it's brilliant, and as you can see, it just opens up the back of the interior so nicely. If you've got passengers or kids back there, it just makes it a much nicer place to spend time in. A base price one of these before any options is about £58,000 today. Tony's car with factory options on it is about £67,500. I'll put all of those options in the description below because a lot of them, as we've already talked about, are made up of various packages, etc. And then you need to factor in the Motec goodies that this particular car has. But before we talk about those, can we just discuss Tony's very cool number plate? G21, which is the code name for the current BMW 3 Series Touring X-Drive. G21 X-Drive. I think it's genius, and just like my Grilles plate, love or hate it, it didn't cost them an arm and a leg. I think the plates are about 300 quid, so they get my thumbs up, Tony. I think you've done a really good job with them. Under the bonnet, which you might be able to hear humming away right now, is BMW's B57, which is a 3-litre inline-6 turbocharged diesel engine. It's one of my absolute favourite power plants, and in this M340D it produces 340 horsepower, but more importantly 700 newton meters of torque. All of that runs through the familiar ZF 8-speed automatic gearbox, and it's fed to the ground via BMW's X-Drive system. But where this particular car gets a little bit different is some of the added touches that Motec Performance have done. Let's start with, well, in my opinion, the most important, which are the wheels and the tyres. So we've gone from 19-inch all-round to 20-inch all-round, which normally would ruin the ride a bit and, you know, give you less tyre sidewall. But instead of the 19-inch run flat tyres that we get, I think usually Bridgestone or Pirelli's, I believe, are on Jamie's car, well, Mike has gone for the best tyre available on the market, which is the Michelin Pilot Sport 4S, a tyre that I bang on about all the time. And instead of them being run flat variants, which is what comes standard on this car, at least in the UK, we've gone for non-run flat Michelin Pilot Sport 4S's. What does that mean? Well, it means a much better ride and therefore much better handling. The wheels themselves, well, I think they really suit this car. I really like the design. They're flow formed, I believe, and the wheel and tyre package is about £2,900 through Motec, which I don't think is bad, because I think a set of these tyres alone have got to be 1,200–1,300 quid, and for something that completely transforms the ride and the handling, I think that's money very well spent. Also, you're saving on not having to run any wheel spacers on this car, because the fitment of these wheels are absolutely perfect. We have lowering springs by IBAC, so the whole car sits a little bit lower. I think it's about 25mm. The car looks absolutely spot on in terms of its stance, and those springs thankfully haven't done anything to ruin the ride quality of this car, because remember, the M340i and the M340d come standard with the adaptive suspension, which is great for the UK and does mean that the car's got a half decent ride quality with the OEM run flats. But honestly, comparing it to non-run flat tyres like the Michelins we got on, it's just another level again. Then we have an AC Schnitzer splitter, side skirts and rear boot spoiler, the same as the one that I have on my M3 Touring, and all of those together I think come to around £2,000. You need to contact Motec to get exact pricing, but I'm giving you an estimate. And the last upgrade or changes that this car's had since it's left the factory are the black badges on the back, and the horrible tacky M badges have been removed on the front wings and replaced with Motec badges. I really like the black one on the back. Not sure personally if I would have the Motec badges on the side, but they definitely look better than the M badges. All of that kit together fitted is going to cost you about £5,800. So it is a big chunk of cash, but obviously you don't need to go for all of it. You can go for bits and pieces. And as I say, for me, well, it's the wheel and tyre package that I'd go for, because they look better, they fit better, and they ride and handle better. First things first, let's test out this car's claimed acceleration figures. BMW say it will do the 0 to 62 sprint in 4.7 seconds. With Jamie's M340d Touring on this exact piece of tarmac about a month ago, we managed a 4.28 seconds, and that was limited by traction. It was spinning up all four wheels in first gear off the line. But now we have Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tyres on this particular car, I reckon we should be able to go a fraction quicker, and hopefully we won't get any slip off the line. I've got all the traction control systems switched off, because that's what we had in Jamie's car when we got that quickest time. My Racebox Mini is ready to go. Left foot is hard down the brake, right foot on the accelerator. Here we go. Oh, not a fraction of slip, and there's 60 miles an hour. 4.15 seconds. There you go. That's what, a tenth and a half quicker on my first attempt. I haven't got time to do any more, but that's massively impressive. And there wasn't even a hint of slip. It just went, and that's exactly what I figured. And that really just confirms to me that Michelin tyres and Michelin's rubber compound really does give you that extra bit of grip, whether it's off the line or through the corners. I have purposely taken us to this section of road because it's twisty, it's reasonably fun, but the condition and the road surface itself is really bad, and in most cars the ride quality or your experience along here doesn't tend to be that great. But these tyres have really completely transformed this car. I know I keep talking about it and going on about it, but honestly the difference is night and day. And it's not just handling and grip levels, it's the feel. I'm in Sport Individual at the moment, so everything is kind of ramped up except for the dampers, which are in comfort, and the steering, which is also in comfort, because I believe steering and comfort in pretty much any BMW is the best setting, because it gives you a little bit of feel, whereas in Sport it just gives you none. And I have to say, after spending a lot of time in M3s and then M340's and M340D's recently, one of the biggest noticeable differences are their handling characteristics. I love these M lights, but when you start pushing them hard, the handling isn't amazing. But this car, with those tyres, and probably the springs and the fact that the car sits a little bit lower and therefore its centre of gravity is a little bit lower, it just handles so much better, and there's so much more feel through this wheel. I mean, I could almost say that if I close my eyes, which I wouldn't do, I could imagine that I am in a slightly softer version of my M3. I think it really has bridged that gap again. And as I say, that's one thing that's missing from a regular M340i or D, is just that nice feel when you're going through a corner. You seem to lose it or lack it, whereas this car seems to ooze it. And it's really, really interesting. Obviously, its braking abilities are also better because we have that extra grip. Just the whole car dynamically just feels so good. This ride quality, honestly, I am surrounded by Buckinghamshire's worst roads. Well, we might be in Oxfordshire here, actually, I'm not sure. But anyway, regardless, they are all terrible, full of potholes, just horrendous conditions. And in my M3, they're not great. And in a regular one of these, although when you're in adaptive and in comfort, it does take that edge off, you can still feel pretty much everything, because the run flat tyre, well, they have such stiff carcasses and sidewalls that unfortunately that just gives you that really uncomfortable sort of niggly ride. And although run flat tyres have got better and better over the years, I think they've been out about 15 years or so now. Remember, I had some of my 2006 130i back in the day, and those things were horrific. They were literally wooden. And they have certainly got a lot better since then, but a run flat tyre is always gonna sacrifice and damage ride quality a little bit, just because of the nature of how they're built and how they're design manufactured. So, you know, if you've got a flat tyre, they still need to support a lot of the car, so you can imagine how strong some of that sidewall is. Obviously, the flip side of having these non-run flat tyres is if you get a puncture, then you have to stop immediately. You can't limp home or limp to a safe place. But these days, touch wood, tyre technology, etc., tends to be much better than it was in the past, and you tend to not pick up too many punches. I hope I haven't jinxed myself or any of you lot by saying that. Anyway, we're back out of the village. We're about to enter into a nice little twisty bit of road again, and let's just enjoy this car. It's so fun. Honestly, when that torque hits you, it's just such an incredible sensation. Oh, this car feels really good, really, really good. I have to say, I think this setup on a D or on an I, when you look at finance rates, and I might do a video about that very soon, where you compare a nicely spec'd M340 to a nice or similar spec'd M3 Touring, for instance, the monthlies are horrendously different. In fact, an M3 Touring is at least twice the monthlies with the same deposit, and there's no way that my car is twice the car of this, and in fact it does lack some of this car's qualities. Let's see if we can get around this really slow van. Has he seen me? I think he has, I'm not sure. There we go. Something else to talk about, and something I was expecting this car with the bigger 20s, essentially bigger tyres on, to suffer from, is more tyre roar. We're in a touring, remember, so it's usually amplified a little bit more around the cabin, but not at all. In fact, it seems quieter in here once again than a car with run flats. So maybe that's a run flat trait. Because of the stiffer sidewalls, it reverberates louder sounds and vibrations around the cabin. But let's head back down this road and just experience a little bit more handling before we hit the motorway and get this back to Bury BMW. The way this picks up, you never need to be in the right gear, you just don't. I mean, it's almost redundant. I tend to drive these more in drive than manual because of that, but let's leave it in fourth through here, 35 miles an hour, foot on the floor. Oh, it just pulls you out like a train. All that torque, all that grip. It really is an awesome bit of kit. This is, it feels like BMW have given us an M340DM. I'm sure that's what they would call it. And that sits in between an M340D and an M3. Everything about this car has really bridged it up to the M3 Touring, but furthermore, it still has a better ride quality, so it's still a better car for daily duties. Let's get out on the M40 and see what this car's efficiency is like at 70 odd miles an hour, and then we'll sign off. You join me almost 30 miles later. I reset the trip computer just before I pulled onto the M40 motorway, so this includes the down ramp, if you like, and accelerating up to motorway speeds. We have averaged 49.3, which is not bad along this particular section of the M40 between Bicester and High Wycombe, so going eastbound towards London, because it is so undulating, this particular bit of road, and also the winds are very strong today, as we talked about in the intro. So the fact that this car, well, it's now approaching 50 miles to the gallon on the average as we slow down for, looks like a bit of a traffic jam ahead, is really, really impressive. And something else that I've noticed at 70 miles an hour, which we did notice at slower speeds, is the lack of tyre roll. And I'm really quite confused about that, because I just assume the fact that these wheels are bigger, the contact patch is larger, we would maybe have a negative side of things being more tyre roll, but that's just not the case. It is gonna be slightly less efficient though, because of the bigger wheels and that bigger contact patch, but I'm only talking about probably maybe 1 to 3%, somewhere in that region, so you're not going to notice it, but that is always the thing. Bigger wheels, bigger tyres give you less efficiency. Anyway, I'm going to end the video here because I'm about 20 minutes away from the dealership. Just want to say a big thanks to Tony Lewis and Berry BMW for, well, getting the service done very last minute, the running service on my M3. Those 1,200 miles crept up very quickly all of a sudden, even though I've been away a lot, and obviously lending me potentially the best courtesy car in the world. I've really enjoyed my few hours in this car. What a piece of kit. And I think, honestly, I know I do a lot of stuff with Motec. I think what they've done with this car, subtle but nice changes. They've improved the performance of it, they've improved the ride quality, the handling, the lack of sound. I think they've improved everything by making a few small changes. And as I say, for me, the biggest improvement really is the tyres and the wheels. I think if you're going to swap the tyres, then you might as well go for the wheel package as well, because they do look very, very good, and they especially suit this Brooklyn grey car. I think the wheels are available in different colours, but you need to speak to Motec for all that information. And talking of that, I'll obviously put Tony and Motec's information in the description below. I hope you've enjoyed this video. It's been a very basic video, no flybys or anything, because I just didn't have the time, and the weather has not really been on my side. But I thought I'd be crazy not to turn the cameras on and capture my time with this particular car. Until the next video, take it easy, and I'll see you then. Cheers. I just wanted to read out a small disclaimer that Tony had sent me through this morning. If you're getting non-BMW parts fitted to your BMW through a dealer, then the dealer must ensure that BMW Finance will accept these items. And if you plan to modify your car after collecting it, then you really must contact BMW Finance and list the items you want to change. They might approve light cosmetic items as long as you can put them back when you give the car back, so essentially it ends up standard without any issues. However, they will not entertain any engine modifications. So most people will think that's logical and understand it, but I just had to read that out because I don't want Tony getting in trouble.